Good morning, everybody. Welcome to beautiful Mineola, New York. I am Interim Long Island Railroad President Catherine Rinaldi. I'm here with MTA Construction and Development President Jamie Torres Springer, and I want to welcome this huge group to the all-new Mineola station, one of the more recent stations to be renovated as part of the Long Island Railroad expansion project. Today, we celebrate the completion of this beautiful new complex, and we honor the vision and the hard work of the men and women behind what you see here today. And also here with us today is the mayor of the ever-growing village of Mineola, Paul Pereira. I speak Portuguese. And we're thrilled that Donald Lipsky, the renowned American sculptor behind the beautiful work of art you see here today, is also able to join us. Standing in for Sandra Bloodworth, who very much wanted to be here this morning, is Yaling Chen of MTA Arts and Design. Also joining us today is Long Island Railroad historian and former branch line manager Dave Morrison. And finally, we have board member Randy Glucksman, who came down all the way from west of Hudson, and he's here today. Now, today's event also has another purpose, and that is to celebrate the centenarian among us, as this newly modeled station building first opened its doors 100 years ago today on September 22nd, 1923. Here to help us blow out the candles today is Mr. Thomas Murray, who, believe it or not, is the grandson of George Eggers. George Eggers purchased the very first ticket sold in this building. I don't know how we know that, but apparently we know that. By working closely with the community, Jamie's construction and development team, led by Anthony Tufano, who's also here today, has ushered this key station into the 21st century, widening platforms, building new pedestrian overpasses, improving ADA accessibility, and installing modern amenities and stunning new art like this that all of our residents will enjoy. In February, with third track and Grand Central Madison work rendered complete, we introduced an unprecedented 41% system-wide service increase with the kind of greatly expanded reverse peak train options that are going to boost communities and business all up and down the main line. Mineola Station is now busier than ever. This new age of transformative infrastructure expansion enabled us to increase the number of trains stopping at Mineola from 137 pre-Grand Central Madison to the 203 that currently stop here today. A 48% increase and a massive benefit for the thriving local economy and the 14,000 riders who use the station daily. And I want to pause here for a second to talk about some of the ridership increases that MTA as a whole is seeing this week. Long Island Railroad set a record on Wednesday. Metro North set a record on Tuesday. The subway set a record yesterday. We had 100% OTP yesterday morning. We're breaking records all over the place at MTA. Something else to celebrate here again this morning. Mineola needed a modern station. Let me wait a second here. You can hear me, right? Mineola needed a modern station, and now it has one. It's all part of the broader Long Island Railroad initiative to strengthen the reliability and the resiliency of our infrastructure. In addition to throwing out more kudos to Jamie and his team, I also want to call out the contribution of our Long Island Railroad Force account under Anthony Simon at SMART. This is a group that has worked hard throughout the pandemic to deliver for Long Islanders. Union employees, management employees, everybody who worked on this project for the Long Island Railroad did not miss a beat during COVID. Together, we were able to figure out a safe way to keep going so that we didn't lose any time. It's a credit to the dedication of the Long Island Railroad workforce. Let's give a round of applause for Long Island Railroad workers. Okay, so now let's talk about the statue. I want to take a moment to discuss the prominent and lasting tribute here to a true pioneer and a proud Long Islander who made aviation history not all that far from where we're standing today. Everybody knows Amelia Earhart. She's more of a household name, but not nearly as many people know the name Bessica or Bessie Raish, who started it all for female aviators as the first American woman who is credited with piloting an airplane. She was an accomplished musician, an artist herself, and a medical doctor who, along with her husband Frank, built an airplane in their Mineola living room. On September 16, 1910, in Hempstead Plains, she bravely piloted 5 flights, and those flights were accredited by the Aeronautical Society of America, from which she later received a gold medal that read, "First Woman Aviator in the United States," a true Long Island Railroad pioneer. Now, on the statue, you'll notice that Bessie is holding a special little guy whose name is Roxy. Roxy is an adorable puppy who was first adopted by the Garden City station master in 1901, and whose wandering spirit led him to board as many trains as he could, including the train of President Teddy Roosevelt, with whom he would travel in his private car up to Oyster Bay. In bringing together these two unconnected stories in the tradition of heroic statuary, Donald Lipsky honors these unique legacies in his own inimitable style, and this amazing piece of art will be forever enjoyed by our customers here. An artist who creates large-scale sculptural installations in public places, Mr. Lipsky's work explores how context transforms meaning through a whimsical combination of materials and location. Among many other spaces, you'll find Mr. Lipsky's work displayed in collections at the Art Institute of Chicago, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the Whitney Museum of American Art. In many ways, there's a piece of Roxy in all of us. The humanity that was shown to this little dog throughout his life lives in our employees, and his enterprising spirit is something that we could all stand to channel every now and again. Why not venture to places unknown, like Bessie and Roxy did? With all of the new regional connectivity and travel options available through our combo ticket and the common terminal at Grand Central, it's a whole lot easier to use both railroads to discover the best of our region. Now, with that said, I would like to pass the mic over to Jamie Torres-Springer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathy. And Kathy, the champion of all of the railroads of the MTA. We let's give Kathy, one hand. Yes. But such a leader and such a great partner for me to have worked with for the last couple of years. This is a great day. It's not only the 100th anniversary of Mineola Station, it's also the end of Climate Week, and I want to acknowledge that because we are all of us here working towards a cleaner future and addressing those risks of climate change before us. The MTA, we say it all the time, but we can't say it enough, avoids 20 million tons of carbon every year for this region by the fact that people are using mass transit. So we're so proud to be making improvements to that mass transit system. And before I go on, I do also want to acknowledge there's a lot of community leaders standing here with us. And also I want to acknowledge that Lisa Daglian is here, who's the head of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee for the MTA and great partner for us. Christopher Greif, and accessibility is such an important part of what we're doing. Christopher Greif, one of our great advisory board members for accessibility. And I must admit, I don't know her name, but I know that Miss Wheelchair New York is here with us as well. And that's significant because we've made so many accessibility improvements as part of the Third Track program. We're thrilled to be here. This station's renovation is part of the $17 billion that the MTA has invested in the Long Island Railroad over the last 15 years. And the work goes on with bridge replacements, more accessibility upgrades coming to 3 more stations to get to 100% accessibility, lots of state of good repair work, and much more. As you can imagine, a station that's been in service for a century sustains a lot of wear and tear. Now, Mineola residents have access to a completely renovated station with wider platforms so we can run longer 12-car trains to accommodate the increase in ridership, thanks to the completion of the whole Third Track program and Grand Central Madison. When we planned this station modernization, we included those functional improvements and also dozens of modern upgrades that make for a better customer experience. Let me just name a few, and you can see them here. Renovated station, interior and exterior with new accessibility features. Illuminated signage with platform lighting for improved visibility. An entire new station plaza area that's looking great. A lot of things you don't see. Enhanced CCTV security, USB charging stations, emergency phone systems, a new retail space for a newsstand in the West Overpass building, a new pedestrian overpass with a second elevator overpass at Main Street, relocated platforms that bring pedestrians and commuters closer to the Main Street Shopping and Business Center. And this new station allows for easier connection to the 551-space Mineola Harrison commuter parking garage that we opened last year. Of course, Kathy mentioned the beautiful and unique art installation commissioned by MTA Arts and Design that we're so proud of. And lastly, we included new canopies to protect commuters from the elements, a new automated snow melting system installed in platform stairs and ramps, and electric heating in platform shelters. It's a little hard to imagine the importance of all that right now, but we all took advantage of that last winter. Mineola Station, I want to say, is a great example of MTA construction and development's efforts to deliver projects better, faster, and cheaper. With the third track program, we took over 50 small projects, including renovations here at Mineola and at 4 other Long Island Railroad stations, and bundled them together into one mega project, take advantage of economies of scale, and avoid our lengthy procurement cycles and the difficulty managing all those separate projects. So we made lots of improvements, economies of scale, and avoid our lengthy procurement cycles and the difficulty managing all those separate projects. So we made lots of improvements. Of course, third track is a huge improvement, supporting more commuting both ways, commuting on the peak, commuting on the reverse peak, across Long Island Railroad, major state of good repair upgrades, all the way across the main line for that entire project, and then these upgrades to these 4 stations. So it's just a huge amount of work has gotten done. And I want to say that third track also completely changed the way that we incorporated community input into a project. The community essentially, and I look at the mayor and others, became a part of our team. They knew when and where we were doing work at all times, every step of the way. And with that kind of community engagement, we're able to advance construction better than before, and we're going to bring that into the fold for all of our capital projects from now on. In fact, I really want to recognize Anthony Tufano, who's our project executive for Third Track. Also, Anthony's team, I don't know how many team members are here, Anthony, but yeah, right, there you go. Hi, guys. Everybody's hard at work. But I do want to say, and people should be pleased about this. Anthony Tufano, after successfully delivering third track, now runs all of the capital work for the MTA for both the Long Island Railroad and the Metro North Railroad. So we're going to benefit from all of these great accomplishments and learnings from third track for years and decades to come. And of course, we had a great contractor, great partnership with a joint venture contractor that we worked with to deliver third track, which, and this is where I'll finish, which we did on time and $100 million under budget. So that is money that goes back into our capital program and enables us to get more work done. So when you hear from people that the MTA has concerns and issues delivering capital projects, it's always a challenge, but we're seeing success after success. And third track, which this station upgrade was a big part of, really led the way for that. Thank you very much, everyone. I want to pass it back to Kathy Rinaldi. Actually, I'll introduce State Senator Martins. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Great to be in Mineola. With this project, Mineola's train station finally enters the 21st century, and I think that's something worth celebrating. We talk about the 100th anniversary of the station. Mineola grew up around the railroad. There's a reason Mineola exists. Before Mineola, it was called the Branch. And the reason is because this is where the main line and the Hempstead line split. Now, historically in the United States, you have cities and communities growing up around rivers because of ports, but Mineola grew up here specifically because of its accessibility to the railroad, the ability to transfer back and forth to New York City and parts east. So the railroad has been an integral part of this community since before it was created. Actually, Mineola dates back as a village to 1906, yet the railroad was already here. So let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about the importance of the railroad, especially to communities and communities like Mineola and those around the greater Mineola community, and the need for them to have a way of getting into New York City that avoids them taking a car, that allows for mass transit to be the primary source of transportation for our commuters, myself, my family, as we go back and forth to New York City. This station goes a long way towards allowing for that accessibility. The access now to Midtown and going into Grand Central Station has been a wonderful addition and a convenient addition for so many of our commuters that we really need to stand back and appreciate the moment where we are. Having said that, it is also important that we remember that there has to be an affordability component in addition to that accessibility. And I know that the railroad will continue to work hard. I'm glad to say that we saved $100 million, and maybe we can use that towards fares and assisting people in getting into the city. But ladies and gentlemen, we're here to celebrate Mineola today. This wonderful station, this new addition to our community, and the two folks in the statue behind me, Bessie and Roxy, who represent so much of what is the history of our greater Long Island community. Thank you to the Long Island Railroad for this effort. Thank you to everyone who was involved in this effort. And frankly, the community is better off as a result. Looking forward to being here for the next 100th anniversary as well. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, allow me to take the opportunity to introduce a dear colleague of mine, someone who has succeeded me as mayor of Mineola, someone who's deeply ingrained, and it is no surprise to me that Mayor Pereira knew exactly where everyone was during construction, because that's exactly the kind of mayor he is. He keeps an eye on things, he runs a tight ship, and has done a wonderful job as the mayor of Mineola. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Paul Pereira.
Thank you, Senator Martins. I would like to also acknowledge that our entire village board is here. Deputy Mayor Janine Sartori, trustees Donna Solosky, Paul Casado, and Jeff Clark. We also have our village clerk here. When I'm not doing my 80-hour-a-week part-time job as mayor, I'm a full-time teacher right here at Mineola High School. I just started my 31st year as a history teacher at Mineola High School. So often, as mayor, I look at things through the lens of history. And today we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of this station house. And this evening, we're going to celebrate the 117th birthday of the village of Mineola, as Mayor Martins mentioned, 1906, September 20th, 1906, to be specific. And so history matters to us. And I want to talk a little bit about more recent history. Mayor Martins, back in 2003, 2004, 2005, began an initiative to create a master plan for our downtown. And beginning with that, we began to develop this 21st century transit-oriented development, smart growth downtown, to encourage walkability, to encourage people to live here by the station. That process got underway well over 15 years ago, and today you begin to see the results of those efforts that began well over a decade ago. 1/3 Avenue right there, Morgan Park right there, the Allure behind me, and more to come. We have built over 1,300 units in the last decade of transit-oriented development, smart growth development with an affordability component in each one of them. And we're not stopping here. We're continuing. The empty space that you see behind me in Sky next to that white building, we just approved a 8-story building there with 119 units, again, transit-oriented. You can't get more transit-oriented than walking out onto the platform. But talking about the relationship between the village and the MTA and the railroad, I have to say that from the inception of this project, we know that there have been other iterations of this project going back decades, and they could never quite get off the ground. And I think the difference is communication. So it was mentioned already today, but Anthony and Hector and Leslie and the whole team with the MTA and the Long Island Railroad were completely transparent. We had input from the beginning. We had monthly mayor's meetings where we were heard about what choices we wanted to make, and what worked for Westbury or Floral Park may not have worked for Mineola, and they heard that and they implemented that into their design, and vice versa. You know, they had requests from us, and we worked in tandem with them. If they needed to use one of our lots to store something, or if we needed to move something, we worked hand in hand, and that is how we get here. So this, in 2004, 2005, the station was an integral part of that master plan. And although it took a little while to get here, better late than never. We are here. We now have a station that matches the vision of the master plan, and that is one of walkability, accessibility, safety, and that's what we're providing down here. So it is my honor and privilege representing the residents, the commuters, and the visitors to the village of Mineola with this beautiful station. So thank you to everyone who made it possible. And I'll also add that the Long Island Railroad has been a great partner with the village to provide us ways for us to improve areas around the station with lighting and streetscape and other necessities that may come along. So it has been a tremendously successful project, and as the senator said, I'm looking forward to the next 100 years and the great, 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 great grandson of the original ticket buyer to be here to speak to a crowd then. Thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to President Rinaldi.
Before we take questions, two acknowledgments that I didn't make that I should have. The Oyster Bay Railroad Museum is here today. They have lots of reasonably priced swag over there, so I encourage you to go over there and take a look at their table. And I also would like to thank, I've already thanked Long Island Railroad Force Account. I want to call out the fabulous men and women of the Long Island Railroad Stations Department, led by Teresa Dorsey. They do an amazing job every day. Thank you. And now I think we're ready to answer questions.
Sure. Hi, Kathy. A question for you, but I'd also be interested in takes from the mayor and Senator Martins. The mayor just brought this up. The Community Benefits Fund that was part of the third track project, $20 million set aside for all kinds of projects. I've heard some people question whether this should have been included in the project budget, in as much as it is not directly related to some transportation improvements. You've got things like welcome to community signs or outdoor furniture or improvements to parks. What do you say to people who question whether that was a proper expenditure in this budget?
Okay, well, to sound like Pat Foy, I don't know, I may challenge the premise of your question. I don't know who's questioning anything, but I mean, this all predates me. I think one of the hallmarks of this project, and I'll kick it over to Jamie, is the incredible community partnerships that we built. That's why we have what we have today, is because of the community partnerships we built, the real care that the entire construction and development team gave to cultivating those relationships, making sure that we were addressing community concerns. That was really why we are here today, is because of that partnership, and this was part of that partnership. But I'll let Jamie speak to the specifics.
Sure. We're very proud of the Community Benefits Fund. You know, a thing about building great railroad infrastructure like this is the benefits are seen all across the region, but sometimes the impacts can be pretty direct and specific. And so the innovation of the Community Benefits Fund was being able to help work with communities to address those impacts. It was administered extremely professionally. Applications were made from local municipalities. They were considered by a panel within the project and awarded. And I should say that we were very careful, continue to be to this day. We're not reimbursing any spending until we have a submission that shows that the money was spent. It was spent for the purposes that it was provided for. So Community Benefits Fund, as Kathy said, haven't heard anybody raise any concerns about it. I think the Community Benefits Fund was a real innovation that helped a lot with this project. And Mayor, if there's something you'd like to add from your perspective.
Sure, thank you. I can only say from my perspective, our residents, our commuters put up with a lot of disruption during construction for many years. You may or may not know this, but the third track project and the station rehabilitation essentially began in Floral Park and Hicksville and worked its way in. And so the Mineola station was essentially the last one. So I feel like the residents of our village bore the brunt for the longest. And I think that it is right and it is understandable and it's fair that there would be a community benefits fund. And to answer your question, some of the things that I don't know what other communities have used it for, but we've used it for garbage receptacles right down here at the station. We've used it for parking kiosks, several dozen of them, and they're very expensive, to update our parking systems down here in the village, in the downtown. We are also using it for lighting improvements on 2nd Street, Main Street, and our historic downtown. So for us, most of the money has been spent exactly right here at the station, nothing that would be considered superfluous or anything like that. And we make a submission, and it goes, I believe, through Anthony and Leslie and other people that make that decision. So I know that the money that the Village of Mineola received has been well spent, and it has been spent with the idea to improve this area, walkability, streetscape, benches, big belly garbage cans, lighting, etc. Some of it has not been completed yet, but it is in the pipeline. So I think, and I think that my residents would agree, that the 3 or 4 year inconvenience of having to deal with construction, although a necessary, of course, and to be compensated in this way, and to have local determination on how to spend that money, those people that know this community better and what we need is absolutely the right idea. And I have not heard from a single resident that has questioned, and we've been completely transparent about how we're using the money.
For 1 second.
Well, I asked for
No,
Senator Martin's.
we're going to complete it even more. And the reason is because, as Alfonso, as you know, we've seen various iterations of this project, and as was alluded to by Mayor Pereira earlier, some have failed, this one succeeded. And I think you need to contextualize that. Historically, when we talked about the third track project, it was always that it was a great regional project, and it was great for the region, and therefore the local communities that were directly impacted it had to effectively suck it up, because since it was a greater regional need, we had to absorb that impact, whether it was villages like Mineola, Floral Park, New Hyde Park, Westbury, Hicksville. And the approach this time was a little different. And the difference was they went to the communities and said, let's identify those impacts to your community and let's offset them, because frankly, it isn't fair for us to create a regional benefit at the expense of the local communities that are directly impacted. So when you look at the fund and you look at the kinds of things that were invested, those investments were made to offset the impacts of the greater accessibility that stations like this bring. And I would challenge whoever questioned it to come down and have the conversation. I'm happy to do it. I'm sure Mayor Pereira is happy to do it as well, because you'd have to understand what those impacts are. So for here, it's parking, it's accessibility, it's lighting, it's things like traffic control and trash control. Those are the items that are important. For other communities that could have been different. I didn't know they were getting furniture, honestly, but for that community, that may have been what was important to them. So I think in the context of this project and why it was important for each community to have a voice in those impacts, identify those impacts, and offset the impacts, that's why this project was successful, and that's why the Long Island Railroad's approach this time with regard to the third track actually worked. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right. Janice, you got something? Janet Burns from the Anti-Media Group.
I was actually hoping that perhaps one of the accessibility advocates might be able to speak to things that they're hoping to see in the next 100 years. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch Miss Wheelchair New York's name, but yeah, nice to see you.
Chris, do you wanna say a word, or we can, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to be. Thank you. I'm Christopher D. Grive, as the Long Island Railroad ADA Task Force member, as well as actor. As Lisa knows me, as also New York City Transit Riders Council member. I pass here a lot with my mother if she was here today. But Miss Wheelchair was with me today. Miss Wheelchair New York, her name is Miss Courier Hayswick, and forgive me if I say it wrong. We are very proud of this station because there's not just one elevator here. There are 2 elevators here. I am really proud because I said this yesterday. To get elevators, to get ramps, we have to remind every advocate, every person, we need the support letters to go out to, not just to the MTA, to our elected officials who are here, and to other advocates to remind them, if we don't get this done, we'll be very sad, but we're very proud of the MTA. We want to thank them because this is a new century, and we're going to continue following to get more accessible stations. And Ms. Wheelchair, you want to? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Kalia Hazlett, and I'm Miss Wheelchair New York, and I'm also a travel educator. I teach New Yorkers with disabilities how to navigate the subways and buses. And this station is absolutely a model. If I can cut it out and take it back to Brooklyn with me, I would. It is beautiful. And this is just a reminder that accessibility benefits everybody. In independence, traveling is an important part of independence, and we need to expand this, and we continue to work with the MTA as one of our favorite agencies, and as a travel educator, to encourage people with disabilities to continue to travel and come on down to Mineola and experience this new station. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
A quick one. Kathy, you mentioned that the railroad set a record on Wednesday. What was that record?
Oh, I don't, it's a lot. We'll get you the number. Yeah, there was it was in the press release.
Okay.
There was a press, I think yesterday it went out.
241,000.
Yeah, see, Tim knows. There you go.
All right, thanks everybody. Just stay with us. We're going to do a little ribbon cutting. Pull the podium. Ribbon cutting. It'll be celebratory.
Thank you. To you too. Congratulations to you. Yeah. Magnificent.
Now we know why there's a train delay.
Hi, Donna.
You guys ready? Stills ready? All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Happy New Year.
Happy birthday, Chris. Come on.